Hello and welcome to Fly to the Moon. Today we are not flying to the moon, but we are flying to Tanzania. You may feel like you don't know much about Tanzania, but if you've heard of Mount Kilimanjaro, the Serengeti, Lake Victoria, or the Spice Island of Zanzibar, then you do. If you have an image of herds of elephants and prides of lions, that's Tanzania. Tanzania is a large country. If you took Germany, Italy, and Poland and mashed them together, they'd be about the same size, or, for Americans, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. Tanzania is particularly famous for its wildlife safaris, but this gives us a small problem because wildlife safaris tend not to be cheap. You can drop tens of thousands of dollars on a 2-week safari, if you happen to have that much, which is not really what we're looking at. But we will give you some ideas of how to see those fantastic animals without breaking your bank. The secret is day trips. 2 weeks in the Serengeti, incredibly expensive. 1 day driving out to see some gazelles, not so much. A hike up Mount Kilimanjaro with a guide can be purchased for as little as $50 or $100. Okay, not the entire mountain, it is quite big, but the lower slopes are better for the non-Olympians among us anyway. However, if you do have a few extra dollars to spend and do want to seek out a full safari, then you should try looking at southern Tanzania. Now that's not where Mount Kilimanjaro and the Serengeti are, but the animals and the scenery are just as spectacular, just as mind-blowing, and because it's less popular, less famous, it's also less expensive. Now you might think that you could hire a car and just drive yourself across the Serengeti, but it's not necessarily cheaper to do these things yourself for a simple reason. Tanzania has some incredible wildlife preservation efforts. They've been extremely successful, and one of the ways they've done this is by charging fees to enter their national parks. These fees are charged daily and are quite high, but they are waived if you're on a formal tour. So it can actually end up being more expensive to drive yourself than to go with a group. As well as raising funds, this arrangement also helps to support the Tanzanian economy by creating job opportunities, and as an added bonus, you get guides who are in constant contact with each other, so you get to go where the animals actually are and not be eaten by them. If you don't have the money for a safari, you can still see spectacular features of Tanzania. Day trips, $50 to $100 seems to be the average, which allows you to hire a guide and possibly a car as well to drive you or guide you to something spectacular. A hike through the foothills of Kilimanjaro, a boat trip out onto Lake Victoria, or a day in a Maasai village. There is also Zanzibar, sometimes called the Spice Island. It's just off the coast of Africa, close to the capital of Dar es Salaam, and easy to reach by both ferry and plane. It is famed for its white sandy beaches, and we all love a white sandy beach, and its colonial architecture in an area of the city called Stone Town. There are also marine conservation areas opening up the possibility of snorkeling, and a nearby tropical forest with red colobus monkeys and a mangrove swamp. Spice farms, remember it is called Spice Island, and caves to explore add more possibilities for day trips and an exciting week spent in Zanzibar. But let's turn our attention back to the mainland, to that fantastic scenery, to the Serengeti, to the animals, and to Mount Kilimanjaro. At the foot of the mountain is a city called Moshi. It's not large, but it is a fantastic base to explore the area. There are several beautiful waterfalls on the lower slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro. There are hot springs that you can swim in. The Rao Nature Forest Reserve just a few miles away. Even the city itself should be explored. Local markets, coffee shops, a whole new culture. There are more than 70 million people in Tanzania. It's not all wild animals. Not too far away, in Tanzanian terms, is the city of Arusha, which is handily located for the aptly named Arusha National Park. Zebras, giraffes, antelopes all roam freely, but you will need to take an armed ranger with you because even if the animals don't want to eat you, that doesn't mean they don't want to kill you. The most dangerous animals in Africa are hippos, and they're vegetarians. And I could go on. Tanzania offers so many options and opportunities even if you don't want to spend $5,000 on a 2-week safari. But how much, when it comes down to it, does all this cost? Well, to fly from New York to the capital of Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, costs less than $1,000 per person round trip. From London, it's around £500. Flights within Tanzania are incredibly cheap. $36 from Dar es Salaam to the island of Zanzibar. Around $50 to the aptly named Kilimanjaro International Airport near Moshi. And the same to Arusha. But the real gem is the accommodation. €15 a night in a guest house in Zanzibar. €20 a night for an entire apartment in Moshi. Local restaurants cost about half as much as you might be used to in Europe or North America, and street food is plentiful, simple, and cheap, a mixture of African soul and Indian spices. So how much does it cost for 2 weeks in Tanzania? The big question is what day trips are you going to choose, if any? But assuming that you spend a week in Zanzibar, and then a week in Moshi or Arusha flying between them, with 4-day trips in each, you'll be looking at spending about $1,000 in Tanzania itself, plus the cost of the flight there. So, from the United States, New York specifically, that would be a total of around $2,000. From Britain, that would be about £1,500, possibly a bit less depending on the exchange rates. Now, although Tanzania does have its own currency, taking euros, pounds or dollars also works because these are commonly accepted and often preferred to the local currency. Keep in mind that Tanzania is a tropical and developing country. Get your travel vaccines and don't drink the tap water. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Fly to the Moon, when we will not be flying to the moon, but we will be flying to Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and Macau in China.